I'm going to show some PowerPoint slides, and then I'm just going to open up our Caravan stuff and show you how it works. And you can ask any questions. All right, that's sort of the idea. And let me share my screen here. Let's see. Yep, great. All right, cool. All right, so we're talking about knowledge management today. And by the way, any questions you have, throw them in the chat. I will take some time out as we go through the presentation and answer questions, and then we'll have plenty of time at the end for Q&A. Okay. So we spent a lot of time over the last 3 years talking about prompt engineering, and this idea that if you could craft the perfect instructions to AI, or just better instructions, you would get better results. That is still true to an extent, but as the tools have evolved, our feeling is that prompting isn't the bottleneck anymore. So for example, when we are teaching non-technical people how to use Claude Code, for example, I don't think the word prompt engineering ever comes up during the day. I mean, we do need to teach people how to talk to the AI tools, but the way you work with a semi-autonomous agent like Claude Code, Cowork, OpenAI's Codex is just very different than the way we talk to sort of the legacy ChatGPT. So prompting is not the bottleneck, we don't think. This is the framework that we teach in class. It's, active is the acronym that we use, right? And the idea is that we don't want people to be passive participants in the results they're getting. We want them to take an active role in it. And the most common reason people reach for when they're not getting good results with AI is that the AI model itself isn't capable enough, right? You hear people say this all the time, like AI can't do this, AI can't do that. And that is true sometimes. Certainly over the last 3 years, that's been more true than not. But as of really the last few months with Claude 4.7, GPT 5.5, the AI models are quite good, okay? There's still some things they can't do, obviously, many things, right? But increasingly, the models are good enough, and when we're not getting the results we want, it's because of some other pieces. Fortunately, other pieces that we have a lot of control over too, which is important. We don't have a lot of control over, the capability of frontier AI models, but we do have a lot of control over the context that we bring to AI. Our analogy there is out of the box, AI is like a well-intentioned stranger, right? They are eager, smart, they want to be helpful, but they don't know a lot about you, your life, your work. You can think about like a junior employee, right? They still need a lot of context about the business and their role to be good. So we have a lot of control there. We also have a lot of control over tools. So the analogy here is your best friend with tons of context about you comes to help you change a flat tire, but they don't have a spare tire, they don't have a jack, they don't have the tools they need to help you do that thing. You can imagine hiring a personal assistant and not giving them access to your calendar, that kind of thing. So to complete a lot of the tasks we need, agents need the right tools. And then the fourth piece is instructions. So the analogy here is your best friend shows up to help you fix the tire. They have a spare tire, they have a jack, but they've never changed a tire before, right? They don't know the specific steps you need to do to get that done, okay? So we're gonna kind of leave verification and leave enablement off the table today. It's really this C in the I that we want to talk about. Knowledge management is about bringing more context and bringing better instructions to the things you're working on. And let's jump into that. So Andrej Karpathy has sort of been dropping an important tweet every few months, for the last few years. And one thing that got a lot of people's attention recently was his tweet about knowledge management, where he said he's been spending a lot more time building the systems and the structure that allow him to build good context for the work he does. He specifically was talking about a research knowledge base that he had built to support some more of his work. We have a research knowledge base at Caravan that's modeled off of the way that Andrej does it, and we'll show it to you. And it's a big part of what powers the work I do, trying to ingest lots of information, make sense of it, and communicate it back to people. Okay. If you don't follow Andrej Karpathy, you should. I mean, he just, he had a big tweet about Claude Code over the Christmas break that got a lot of people's attention. He's frequently not right at the forefront, but he is early in calling a lot of the trends in this space. All right. So we're going to talk about the context layer first. And there are kind of 3 points that come out of this that I think are really important. The first is that documentation is now a high ROI activity, right? We've gone from stuff that was a pain in the ass to make and that no one read to something that can be really meaningful. The second thing is we think that LLMs work really great with just folders and files. This isn't meant to say that vector databases, RAG, all these more sophisticated structures don't have a place. But for knowledge management, what we're talking about here, we think everybody should at least start with a folders and files approach. That's what we're going to look at today. And then finally, we're in an interesting moment where the knowledge that we want to create and curate about our organization, with some setup, right, we can have our AI manage this, right, and maintain itself. Now, it doesn't just do that out of the box, okay, but there's some things we can do to make that a systematic process in our business. Okay, so documentation first. You go into organizations and they don't have documentation, and I get it, right? It costs a lot to create it, costs a lot to maintain it, nobody reads it, okay? So the value here was low and the cost was high, right? And increasingly documentation is a big multiplier for the business. And like I said, the agent can create it. And importantly, when you have documentation for an AI, let's say about how to do a particular process in your business, if you set up your structure the right way, the AI is going to read it every time. And one of the big changes in the models becoming more intelligent in the last 6 months is that they follow instructions much, much, much better. And I think that will continue to be true. As the models increase in capability, their instruction following capability will increase. By the way, that's a positive sign for our desire to have AI be well aligned with us, that can follow instructions well. But the idea is if you have documentation, that the AI is really good at following it, which is fantastic. So the cost to create, the cost to maintain goes way down. Because it's getting read and followed, the value goes way up. All right, so complete inversion here of what's been the case for the last, forever, basically. All right. So Daniel, I don't know if this quote is directly attributable to him, but I was reading something that he wrote where he said information expires and systems compound, and that stuck with me. And so what we're looking at here is a way to take the information in our organization and build a system around it. I know you've had the feeling where you talk to an AI, you share a lot of information, and then you come back the next week, whenever, and that rock you've rolled up the hill feels like it's rolled back down, right? You feel like you have to start over building that knowledge, all right? And so that is what we are trying to solve for. If we can roll a rock up the hill and the rock stays there, then when we come back, the next time we roll it up a little further, if the rock's not rolling back down the hill every time, we can roll the rock really high, okay? And that's what progress feels like. So this is the bones of a system that we use at Caravan. All right. There are 5 folders. There are probably a few more beyond this. But the idea is that everyone in the company has a personal folder. And then to operate the business, we run what's called our vaults. So when we look at it, you'll see there's folders in there for organizations, for people, for deals, right? A lot of the nouns in our business live there, okay? And then we have our knowledge base, which we'll look at, which is where we handle research. So we bring in a lot of content that we find through social media or through the news, or right, all of that digital content, and that's how we organize our thoughts, and we're able to then go back and ask a lot of questions from that system and learn a lot. And then we do training. That's what we do as a company. So we have a folder where our curriculum lives, and finally there is a plugins folder. This is our plugin marketplace for Caravan. So a lot of the skills that we use, the agents that we develop, the hooks, they kind of live in there. And I just sort of stacked these left to right, but this is a very interdependent group of folders. So let's say I'm doing some research today on knowledge management, right? I can also go and look in our training folder and ask questions, right? Like, how are we teaching knowledge management? Can you look at our core curriculum and find the modules that reference that? What have we read or reviewed in the last 30 days that might change how we are delivering a certain piece of our curriculum? Or is there a piece of new curriculum that we need to consider adding based on something that's changed? Okay, so the idea is that every piece of research that we do helps us build better curriculum, okay? And similarly on the operations side, right, we can look at how we operate our business in the vault and pull on research if someone wants to get a better sense of how we might use OTel data. That's what we talked about last week, right? They can go into the research folder and find things to read, okay? And that's a curated list of things that have been reviewed and scored by other people on the team, all right? So there's a few more folders outside of these, but these are the main ones. And the idea here, the way I work, is that I actually will just work out of the personal folder. And in Claude Code or Codex, you can work across all the folders at once, meaning if I'm in the personal folder, I can have it go pull something from the research folder. I can also work in curriculum. I don't have to have them all open at once. And we'll look in Claude Cowork as well. The model's a little different there. You do need to connect to all of those folders to use them, but you can effectively work across the whole surface one at a time. All folders at once, right? If you go and look in one of these folders, like in the vault, this is going to be in a Claude context. That's primarily what we use. So you have these CLAUDE.md files, and the Claude team has suggested that a Claude file can very easily be too large. I've heard numbers as low as 200, 300, 400 words. And so the idea is that we don't stuff all of the context into one CLAUDE.md file in the folder. The way that Claude works is it always reads the root folder, but then if it goes into the people folder to read a file about a particular person, whenever it goes into that folder or interacts with one of those files, it reads the CLAUDE.md file in that folder as well, okay? So we've scoped down the context and the instructions down into the folders as well. And that makes this scale up a lot better, and it helps the AI not get lost, okay? It's progressive disclosure, right? It doesn't need to know about what's going on in the people file until into the people folder until it gets down and starts working in that folder, all right? And, we've adopted sort of an Obsidian-style vault here. Obsidian has been popular for a long time amongst people that were interested in personal knowledge management. And it's a really simple idea. I mean, the idea is you have a bunch of different pages that reference each other. So for example, you could look in a vault and there may be an Austin Senseman page. And by the way, these are simple markdown files. And you may have a Caravan page, right? And the Austin Senseman page is going to have a little link that says, hey, this is related to the Caravan organization, right? And so the idea is you have these pages that are all interlinked with each other, all right? And AI does a really great job of that, being able to traverse those links between things and find the things that it needs. So you can have an Obsidian vault. So it's like an open spec that you can use. You don't need to use Obsidian the product, and we'll look at that a little bit more. I'd say that's similar idea to the distinction between Git and GitHub. All right, so Obsidian is more of like the GitHub layer if you need to sync things up or share things up. Not to confuse you too much, but we all of our folders, we use GitHub to do the syncing and sharing, and we can get into that as well. Okay, so the progressive disclosure in a vault, okay, is when the AI first goes in there, it reads the CLAUDE.md file, which sort of tells it what's in the vault. We also have an index file, okay, which is a map to all of the different things that are in the vault. And if you went into a particular page, like let's say you opened the Austin Senseman page, there's front matter. And so all that means, and we'll show you this in a minute, is at the top of the file, there are some fields, right, that are structured across and look the same across all of the different people files, right? So what might be like in a person file, the front matter might say something like created date, right? Last edited date, some things like that. Like we have one of these for Birmingham AI, and in the person file it might say, is this person a breakout leader, a volunteer, right? So there's a template, right, for people in the vault, and the front matter all kind of looks the same. That is hugely helpful for the AI to search across this. So on the Birmingham AI context, I can go into our vault there and say, who all is a volunteer, right? And it can go read the front matter in all of our people files and give that back to me, all right? Wiki links we've already talked about, okay? So those are the links between different documents. So the idea that Austin Senseman might be linked to the Caravan organization, it might be linked to the Birmingham AI organization, all right? These are kind of like links on the internet, right? They point pages at each other. And then finally, you know, there's the full context of what's in the document, right? So the progressive disclosure piece here is that the AI can kind of work from the index down to the front matter, look at wiki links, and then it only needs to read the full content of the Austin Senseman page, for example, right, when it gets to the point where it needs that information, okay? So this makes it a little more scalable. The other thing that's great about the folders and files methodology is that it's totally portable. So I'm going to show you in a second what this looks like working with Claude Code. And then we'll go and point Claude Cowork at it, and then we'll go into Codex and point that at it as well. So Codex is the OpenAI product. We like Claude. We teach a lot of Claude at Caravan, but we don't know where we're going to end up on models. There's a world where we're all using open source models in 12 months. And we want to encourage people to build things in a way that are vendor neutral, if we can, all right? And then lastly, this structure, which is sort of how an Obsidian vault works, agents understand it. They sort of intuitively understand how this works. They don't need a ton of instructions for building it, for maintaining it, for navigating it. And I think that's part of the initial surprise when you first use this, is just how natural it feels for the AI to use this stuff. Okay. So one thing that Andrej Karpathy noted in his tweet is that in his research vault that he's created, there's very little manual intervention, okay? And you'll see the same thing in ours. The AI itself handles ingesting a new blog post that we've read from someone else, right? And understanding what it means, integrating it into the larger wiki structure, tagging it in the right way. Again, the AI is sort of like a fish in water with this stuff. And the research vault that we're going to look at for us, yes, I mean, ultimately humans are the beneficiaries of it, but it's designed in a way where AI can use it, AI systems can use it really well. And so it's a nice place and structure for, I would say, like human AI collaboration. It works quite nicely. All right. So we'll just come back to this. A lot of the things I just touched on, vaults, the way they're structured, folders and files, these are largely context issues, okay? You might have noticed one of our folders is a plugins folder. And so when we talk about instructions, the I in this context, we're talking about skills largely. And we keep all of those skills in that plugins folder. They're sort of first-class citizens, which is very powerful because when I am working, let's say, what was I doing yesterday? Oh yeah, so after we do a training, like I'm in the training folder, I pull in the transcript from the training, I pull in the NPS data from the students, I pull in the OTEL logs from the trainer's session that day so I can see everything that was talked about, what they typed into their keyboard, I can see student reactions. And if I want to turn that debrief process into a skill, I can have that conversation right there in the training folder, and it has access to our plugins folder, and it creates this very virtuous feedback cycle where I can, let's say, add something, like add a new skill into that plugin, and it gets shipped right away to the rest of the team. All right, and so the skills in our organization are sitting right next to everything else, and it creates a really strong feedback loop that has been fun to watch. Okay, so prompting isn't the bottleneck. It's context, we think, and instructions largely. And this, this is what Andrej Karpathy's tweet was about, that he's spending more of his cycles of work building the system of context and instructions that enables him to get more done. It's absolutely what we see with our customers. All right, so I'm going to close this out. I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and I'm just going to see if there are any questions at this point. Yes, Khaled, I will get you a recording of this. And a copy of the slide deck, Matt. Yes. Oh, which folder is the root? So, Chip, I kind of mentioned that I like to work out of the personal folder, but it's not a folder and subfolder thing. These are all separate GitHub repos. So we have one for personal, we have one for the knowledge base, for the training folder, right? In the instructions in CLAUDE.md for all of those different folders is sort of a guide to what the other folders are. So if I'm in the training folder and you look in CLAUDE.md, it says, hey, you also have access to these 5 or 6 other folders. Here's what's in them. Here's how you use them, right? And this is what helps them all work together. So you actually don't have to be in any particular folder when you're working. It's a little bit more of a matter of preference. I usually work out of my personal folder. There's something that's kind of natural for me for that. Okay. Let's see. So within each of the 5 folders, is it an indexed flat structure? Yeah, we'll just look at that, Matt. Let's see. Yeah, call it Obsidian, GitHub, and Claude. Yeah, I think that's it. think that's it. We will look at it. Okay, great. So let's just get this open. We will start, let me share my screen again. Yep, share the entire screen. Cool. We can just start here. This is Claude Code. I just started a folder called Personal, and I want you to see that setting this up starts like this, like set up an Obsidian vault in this folder, okay? When you hear the word folder, we love simple words. We love folders and files. You know, other words are used, like this is a directory, this is a project. We like folders and files just because it's simple, okay? So if I was gonna start this, I would start by creating one for you. It's gonna be a lot easier to learn this based on just using it yourself without a lot of friction from trying to make it work across the organization. Now, these folders it created, you may love this, you may hate it, you may wanna do it completely differently. Two thoughts I wanna share. One is I am very hesitant to say that the way I do things is the way everybody else should do things, all right? Like even doing a webinar and saying, hey, you should do knowledge management in Obsidian vaults. I have a little bit of anxiety there. But the things you see here, I do not want you to adopt this cargo cult mentality that you should just do this because I'm doing it. A lot of this is giving it a try and seeing if it works on the context of what you're trying to do. And the other thing is people ask me a lot, like, what is the exact structure for how to do this? And I don't think there is an answer to that question. And mainly because it's really, really easy to overthink that. What I suggest is that people get started and they try to solve a problem. If you end up with a structure here where like it doesn't have the folders you want, or you think it should be organized differently, that's just a conversation between you and the AI, right? So if you're like, hey, I don't think we need a daily folder, but I do think we need a folder for the people in my life. Okay, so again, to go back to this prompt engineering thing, we don't think of elaborate prompts when we're working with tools like Claude Code, Cowork, or Codex. What we think about is being able to express our intent very clearly to the AI. And then the AI will have a conversation with us to fill in the gaps, okay? So that is the basics of structure. How about this? Let's create a template that goes into the people folder that has some front matter about the things I might care about related to people. Go ahead and create a file in there for me. All right. Let's see how much it overthinks this. Maybe not too bad. Let's see what it built. All right, great. All right, so when we talk about front matter, what we're talking about is this part in between the three hyphens, okay? So this is structured data, right? So any people file that we make would have these same fields in it. And so when you have hundreds of these files, maybe thousands of files for people, right? I could say, hey, show me everybody in here who is a friend, right? And it uses that front matter to easily search, okay? All right, so, if I was gonna continue to work on this, we'd probably want to, do some things like create a CLAUDE.md file. And I actually, if you go into our vaults, you don't see a template.md file. The template.md file for us is usually the CLAUDE.md file. So if you build one of these for Claude and you decide you want to use it for Codex, Codex uses this agents.md file. It really is as trivial as pointing Codex at it. And actually, recently in Codex, I've seen it, if it realizes it's in a Claude-focused folder, it will ask if you'd like to convert it to make it easy for Codex to use, and it will go and keep what's in there, but it will layer in the types of files that Codex likes. All right. So great. So if you're seeing Claude.md for the first time, right, these are the core instructions that Claude uses. It's going to read Claude.md every time it does anything. As a rule, like you saw Andrej Karpathy make this point, I rarely, not never, but I rarely go in and write in my Claude.md files. I usually let the AI handle that, right? So if there was something I wanted different about it, that would be a conversation that we had, okay? So if you are thinking about exploring this for the first time, all right, here's how I would start, okay? Just sort of make one yourself. My suggestion for how to get value out of this is to think of a handful of questions you'd like to be able to answer and things you'd like to be able to do, and tell AI about those things, right? So let's say I would like to be able to ask you, who are all the people that have birthdays coming up in the next few weeks? I'd also like you to be able to tell me, who are all the people I know that work at company X? And I'd also like to tell you to be able to tell me, who have I emailed with recently? So some of that last one's just kind of a little bit of a curveball to see what it's going to do. But the idea with a knowledge base, right, is that it enables two buckets of things. It enables you to answer certain questions, right? And so if you tell it, here's the types of questions I'm interested in being able to ask you, and it helps you do certain things, right? So one thing I could ask it is, hey, I'd like to be able to send emails. So that second bucket is more on the tooling side and the instruction side. The what questions is it going to be able to answer is squarely in the context side, all right? So please help me structure this vault so we can do these things together, all right? My point is, if you start a vault with the outcomes that you're looking for, the AI will work backwards and figure out how to structure it in a way that supports that work, all right? And this turns out to be a big unlock, all right? So maybe we can come back to this in a second. So let's look at what else we have. Oh wait, hold on, here we go, it's cooking. Okay, so we'll need a company field, Anyway, it's gonna figure that out, all right? But again, if you express your intent very clearly, the AI can work backwards and figure out what it wants. All right, this is our big research folder that we work out of. How does this project work? All right, so here we go. It's like reading the Claude.md files. It may be going down. So the knowledge base that we use is a mix of what you're looking at here, folders and files, and then there is a plugin that goes along with it. It has a bunch of skills that tells it how to use this thing. All right. My sense is every folder that you have should have a corresponding plugin that has a bunch of instructions about what to do in that folder and how things work. So for example, what happens in our knowledge base? Well, people from all over the company can go and tag links that they're interested in, and we have a skill that goes and ingests all of them. So it pulls them off the internet, it reads them all, it saves the transcript, it summarizes them, it pulls out the key ideas, it updates the wiki, this kind of stuff, okay? Right? So I want you to leave with that idea that a folder and a plugin are great companions. Here's the context, here's the instructions, and they work really well together. So teach me about Andrej Karpathy based on what's in the folder. Okay, so the idea is someone from my team could come in here and ask a question like that. While it's working, by the way, I want to show y'all, I'm just going to spin up another Claude session right now. Claude Agents just launched last week, and so it maybe is worth looking at. What this does is each one of these is its own conversation. So I'm going to press right on the keyboard, right? It's going to take me into this conversation. I can press left and come right back, right? And so I can kick off a bunch of different events here. It's the equivalent of having a bunch of different tabs open, okay, in here. So maybe I want to say something like, well, hold on, let me see. Like last week's webinar was about OTel, which is a logging format that we use. So I'm wondering if a recent training customer could benefit from using OTel. Okay, so there it is, it started the conversation. We can go in. So the reason I asked this question is OTel research is in this knowledge base repo. Recent training customers are over in the training repo. I'm wondering, right, if it's going to go figure that out and navigate between them and find the right thing. Okay, so we could see that in a minute, but let's see how we did over here. Tell me about Andrej Karpathy, right? So we know that LLMs have knowledge in their training data. We know they can also use web browsers. Here, what we are doing is rooting its knowledge in our own knowledge base first, okay? So it's not, when I ask it about Andrej Karpathy, it is using this knowledge base querying skill to go and look at what we have here in the repo versus sort of that hallucination prone or noisy internet world, okay? That turns out to be extremely valuable. I can build presentations for people based on things that are in our research and read through them, right? And it's cited their sources that's from the research repo, right? I can go back and read them and look at them, okay? And that is very useful to me. Has anyone reviewed any Karpathy content recently? Okay. So one thing that happens in here is people from the team can open up things they've saved and read them and then provide like in-depth reviews of them that help bring a lot of additional context to those things, right? A lot of his stuff's older. What's something I've reviewed recently? So I could come in here and say, what's something that Brandon's reviewed recently or someone else from the team, right? And see what people think, read their reviews, this kind of thing, all right? So, here we go. Cool, you can sort of see, oh, here we go. It just sort of has my star ratings, my hot takes, on and on and on, okay? So the idea is that when I read something and then I give it a review, that makes that knowledge valuable to my future self. It makes it valuable to my colleagues. It makes it valuable to you on this call, right? It makes it valuable for people that walk into a Birmingham AI room and hear something from the stage, on and on and on. All right, let's see how we did. Which customer are you thinking about? Blah, blah, blah. So it's being a little coy. All right, so that's our research knowledge base. Right alongside it, we do have a folder that has all of our Caravan plugins in them. Here it is on GitHub, right? Yep, here it is, Caravan plugins. So what's cool about plugins and skills is they are folders and files. And so again, this one is not set up as a vault in that sense, but it's another folder and file structure that plays nicely with all of this other stuff. All right. I think Anthropic has been leading the way here. on developing these standards, like for plugins, for skills, and they're getting adopted by the other labs. And I think they must have seen something early that gave them a lot of conviction in investing in a folders and files approach. You can see how this could have been built in a much more technical or sophisticated way, but maybe just through good fortune, folders and files work really well. Okay. So the idea here, I'm actually not in this Caravan plugins folder very often. I don't open it up, right? The idea here is that when I am working, right, let's just clear the context here, right? I want to improve the efficiency of the KB ingest skill. So this thing's doing a lot of heavy lifting for us. It's reading a lot. It's you know, it's a token heavy process. And so I'm not in the plugins folder, but the knowledge base knows that it exists, right? And it has access to all those plugins and skills. So one thing I'll often do is after I ingest all this data, I might say, look at what we just did. What are some ways that we can do that better next time, and just have it go immediately, update the plugin, and ship it. All right. So there's this very tight feedback loop between the work we're doing in our various folders and the plugins and skills that power the company. All right. So I'm going to stop there and see what people have asked. Personal equals global. I don't know, Chip. What do you mean? I'll let you get an answer in there. You should do a training just on this. Yeah, maybe I should. So, yeah, Peter's asking about this living at Obsidian. These folders all get synced up to GitHub. You know, we've just found that to be simpler. I mean, everyone has the GitHub CLI installed on their machine, and we don't even really think about it that much. We did, and we do sort of allow merges to main on some of the folders, but not on the plugins anymore. They're like too central to like the operations of our business, and so that one is requires pull request. For task management and project management, it's all done in Notion, right? So if you went into, I would love to see y'all's Notion too, Peter. I'm sure we'll crack them open sometime and compare notes. But the idea is that the context stays in these folders and files. There is some context in Notion as well, right? We run on EOS and we have a lot of that stuff sitting in there because, frankly, like, one weakness in this approach is that markdown files are just, it's not the most pleasant experience to read them, even when you're in that preview mode and it's formatted nicely. So we do like reading, and if a file is going to be edited a lot by humans with their hands on the keyboard, right, that ends up in Notion. And it's sort of its own folders and files system as well, but you do get a database layer in there for some more structured stuff. So why do you prefer Claude over OpenAI? I mean, some of it's just habits, you know, but look, here's the Codex app. Oh, let me share my screen. Here's the Codex app, right? And so look what you have over here. Here's all of our different folders. So if I want to go into the knowledge base, you know, where I just was, and start a new conversation, right? Totally portable, all right? And we've given Codex access to the plugin, Caravan plugin marketplace. So all of the same stuff flows into here. I think the Codex app is fantastic. I think you get a little more bang for your buck on the budget here. And GPT 5.5 is a fantastic model. So I'm not going to be surprised if a lot of people move over to Codex, or at least give it a try. I mean, there is a sort of stickiness to the Anthropic ecosystem that we like. I probably spend 60% of my time in Claude Code in the terminal, 30% of my time in Claude Cowork, and then 10% of my time here in Codex. All right, mostly just to understand the differences and see what's changed. All right, we didn't look at Claude Cowork, but I do want to point something out here. So Claude Cowork works off projects. So if I went into our repos and just connected this to my personal folder, in this Claude Cowork project, what I would then do is add these other folders into it, so it has them all as context, right? You can literally just see what this looks like. So now what I'm doing is working across the entire surface, right? I can read, I can just have a conversation about any part of our business, essentially. To Peter's point, you give it the Notion connector as well, and all of a sudden now you kind of have the whole business in one place. So they used an MF. Okay, hope that answered the Claude OpenAI question. Let's see. My data is just in a database now. Yep, understood. Yeah, so I mean, clearly, there's a world for databases. I don't think, I hope no one is reading into what I'm saying, that like databases are dead, although, that would be a wonderful clickbait item for social media. I'm particularly talking about the one new way, right, to think about knowledge management and bringing the right context to AI, particularly an AI agent. And this folders and files method, synced up to GitHub, just works surprisingly well. It may be even hard to express how well it works. I would just encourage people to maybe give it a try. It can feel like a big unlock. So I'm syncing, depends on the repo, Matt, how often I'm syncing it. Like I said, with the plugins folder that we have now, that's a little more gated, because, but the knowledge base, basically I think the instructions in CLAUDE.md are like anytime it makes a significant change to go ahead and push it. And so it's just constantly pushing that up and down. So yeah, I do a lot of reading. I think I've got a pretty good curated list of things on X or Twitter. That's kind of my preferred place to be, because I think that's where a lot of the most important voices in AI are spending their time posting. And I don't really spend any time on that For You algorithmic part of Twitter. I really just look at the people I'm following, which also I think reduces a lot of noise, which is something I'm very actively trying to fight. So is Obsidian a supercharged note collector and manager? No, what I'm suggesting is it is infinitely more than that, right? It's not that it just holds markdown files too. That's worth saying. In a pure Obsidian vault, it's really just markdown files. But when you open ours up, you'll see all sorts of other stuff in there as well. And so it's a little bit of a hybrid. I read a great article yesterday that said, hey, why not use a JSON-L format for logs because they can only be appended to, whereas your markdown files can get overwritten. I was like, that is a great suggestion. So there's a certain file format, right, that can only add new lines, like sort of the way that file works, right? It cannot overwrite stuff that's already in there, right? So you'll see in one of our repos now, we have a JSON-L file that manages like the logging within the folder, but you wouldn't see that in like a pure Obsidian vault. You would only see markdown files. You've always been allowed to put other stuff in there, but it didn't really make sense in the context of having this interconnected web of markdown files. Okay, so not just a supercharged note collector, right? Like a really proper context layer for managing an organization's knowledge. And I'm sure we will see a new generation of products like this. You know, the wrinkle here is that all the things I've just showed you are kind of like DIY. It's like, let's get out some duct tape and like, let's build one of these things and figure out how to maintain it. And yeah, there's GitHub and there's all these other considerations, right? It's not something that you just sign up for, press go, and everything is easy and it works. I don't think I would even want that right now, because I want the flexibility of trying out some different things within that structure so that we can learn and teach. But you could see how an organization, it might be hard to roll out something like we just described across a big group. But you could start with yourself. You could then roll it out to a much smaller team of people. And if you do that, you will learn a lot about how knowledge management works. And by the time more mature products come online, you'll be in a much better place to evaluate if they're good or not, and if they are good or not for you. Okay, so thank you all for being here. This is great. I appreciate all the questions. Y'all all know where to find me. If you have any follow-up questions, I will send out a recording, and I will send out a copy of the deck. So thank y'all. See you next time.